when you think of the major powerhouses in collegiate basketball, you have several teams that come to mind automatically. You know that they just pop in your mind, and you realize, man, this team's pretty good. You think of Indiana, you think of Duke, you think of Kansas, you think of other teams like Michigan State. But come tomorrow, we could have a number one that nobody expected. Could the Gonzaga Bulldogs, and should they, be ranked number one? Do they have a claim for it? Yes. Do they deserve it? I actually do believe that they do. Think of it like this. It's not as big a difference as it is in football, where the big dogs just completely crush, the lesser ranked, lesser teams. Gonzaga has 2 losses this year. You look at the other teams around. Indiana and Duke have 4, along with Kansas. Florida's got 5. Georgetown's got 4. Michigan has 5. Michigan State has 7. Pitt has 7. A lot of the big name teams. Gonzaga only lost twice this year, and one of them was to Butler on a buzzer beater. They're a very, very solid team from top to bottom. But do they really deserve to be number one? I honestly do believe that they do. And here's why. I know that they play a much weaker conference. I mean, it's not even close. I mean, you just look at the conference there, and they're first place in the West Coast Conference. I didn't even know that was a conference, to be honest with you. I didn't. I think that if you put them in with the other Big Ten and the SEC schools in the Big East, I think they would do very, very well. They're a very confident team. They're a very sound team fundamentally. They're 9th overall in the nation in points per game. However, the one kind of blemish in the record, they did lose to number 13 Illinois, 85-74 at home. But that was in December. They did beat Oklahoma State, who was number 22 in the nation at the time. They beat other teams like in the big conferences like WVU. They beat Clemson. Overall, they have been the most consistent team. They're definitely going to be a top seed in the tournament. They'll definitely be a number 1 seed in the tournament. I'm not so sure, though, that the polls and the voters will rank them ahead of Indiana and Michigan and Duke. Duke in particular, because, first off, I got to tip my hat to Brian Kelly for what he did last night. 36 points against Miami at home in that win over the Canes. That was impressive. But will they seed them at the number 1 overall seed? I think Indiana will be the number 1 overall seed, but I think Gonzaga will be number 1. I think they deserve it. Because think about it. From the season start to now, they've been consistent. Indiana had a couple of games where they went away. Duke had a couple of games without Brian Kelly. They weren't themselves. Duke has a very, very legitimate chance right now. And then when the polls come out tomorrow, if not Gonzaga, it'll be Duke at number 1. Because Indiana's lost, and I know Duke lost this week. But when they got Brian Kelly back, they beat the Canes, a team that beat them by 30 earlier in the season. 27, close enough. But Gonzaga is just a very, very good team, and I think they are more than worthy of being number 1.